Henry stood frozen at his doorway, staring at the woman his daughter had just brought home. His hands trembled. His face turned pale. And then, without warning, his knees gave out. Leo rushed to catch his father, but it was too late. Henry collapsed right there on the Christmas-decorated porch. What could make a grown man, a strong, single father who had survived years of struggles, fall to his knees like this? Who was this mysterious woman? And why did she look so familiar, yet so impossible? At the same time, stay with me because what you're about to hear will leave you speechless. Before we continue, let us know where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories reach. December 24th, 2024. Brooklyn, New York. Henry wiped the kitchen counter for the third time that evening. The small apartment wasn't much, but it was home. Christmas lights blinked softly around the window, casting colorful shadows across the worn furniture. He had spent the last of his December paycheck on those lights and a small artificial tree. His kids deserved at least that much. Working double shifts at the warehouse hadn't been easy, but Henry never complained. Not after losing his wife 3 years ago. Not after becoming both mother and father to his 2 children. 9-year-old Leo and 7-year-old Emma were his entire world now. "Dad, the hot chocolate is burning," Leo called from the living room. Henry snapped back to reality and rushed to the stove. The milk had started bubbling over. He quickly turned off the heat and poured the chocolate into 3 mismatched mugs. This was their tradition. Every Christmas Eve, hot chocolate and old Christmas movies. "Emma should be back any minute," Henry said, handing Leo his mug. "I told her just 30 minutes at Sarah's house." Leo nodded, his eyes glued to the television where Home Alone was playing. Henry smiled. Despite everything, despite the financial struggles and the long working hours, his kids were happy. That's all that mattered. 30 minutes passed, then 45, then an hour. Henry's phone showed 8:47 p.m. Emma wasn't answering her phone. Sarah's mother said Emma had left their house 40 minutes ago. It was only a 10-minute walk. Henry's heart started racing. "Leo, stay here, lock the door, I'm going to look for your sister." He grabbed his jacket and rushed out into the cold December night. Snow had started falling, covering the Brooklyn streets in a thin white layer. Henry's breath came out in visible puffs as he jogged toward Sarah's house, scanning every face, every shadow. "Emma," he called out. "Emma, baby, where are you?" Nothing. He checked the park, the corner store, the bus stop. Panic was setting in now. His phone trembled in his cold hands as he dialed 911. "Please, my daughter, she's only 7. She was supposed to be home an hour ago." That's when he heard it. A child's laughter, Emma's. Laughter. Henry spun around. There, walking down the snowy sidewalk, was Emma. She was holding hands with a woman Henry had never seen before. But as they got closer, as the streetlight illuminated the woman's face, Henry felt like someone had punched him in the chest. It couldn't be, it was impossible. The woman had the same eyes, the same smile, the same way of tilting her head when she looked at Emma. But it couldn't be her. She was gone. She had been gone for 3 years. "Daddy," Emma ran forward, her face bright with excitement. "Daddy, look who I found. She helped me when I got lost." Henry couldn't move, couldn't speak. The woman walked closer, and now he could see her clearly. She was younger than he remembered, maybe late 20s. She wore a simple gray coat and a red scarf. Her dark hair fell past her shoulders, and those eyes, those impossibly familiar eyes. "Mr. Henry," the woman said softly. Her voice was gentle, concerned. "Are you all right?" Emma got a little turned around in the snow. "I found her near the subway station, and she told me her address. I wanted to make sure she got home safely." Who are you?" Henry managed to whisper. The woman smiled. "My name is Isel. I just moved to the neighborhood last week." Emma tugged at Henry's jacket. "Dad, can Isel come inside? She's so nice, and she doesn't have anywhere to go for Christmas. She told me she's all alone." Henry's mind was racing. This didn't make sense. This woman, Isel, she looked exactly like. No, he was seeing things. Grief was playing tricks on him. It had been a long day, a long year, a long 3 years. "I don't want to impose," Isel said quickly. "I was just making sure Emma got home safe. I should go." "No," Emma grabbed Isel's hand. "Please, Dad, it's Christmas Eve. We can't let her be alone." Henry looked at his daughter's pleading eyes, then at Isel's kind face. Against every logical thought in his head, against every warning bell, he heard himself say, "Would you like to come in for some hot chocolate?" Isel hesitated, then nodded. "That would be lovely, thank you." Leo looked up when they entered, his eyes immediately suspicious of the stranger. "Who's that?" "This is Isel," Emma announced proudly. "She saved me when I got lost." "You got lost?" Leo's voice rose. "Dad, I told you she's too young to walk alone." Hey, hey, Henry said, holding up his hands. Let's just calm down. Everyone's safe, that's what matters. He poured another mug of hot chocolate for Isel, and they all sat in the small living room. The Christmas tree lights twinkled. Home Alone still played on the TV. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt normal. Henry couldn't stop staring at Isel. The way she wrapped her hands around the mug, the way she crossed her legs, the way she laughed at Emma's stories, it was all so familiar, too familiar. So, Isel, Henry said, trying to keep his voice steady, what brings you to Brooklyn? Isel's smile faded slightly. I'm looking for someone I lost a long time ago. Who? She looked down at her hot chocolate. My family. I was separated from them when I was very young. I've been searching for years. I'm sorry, Henry said, and he meant it. Despite the strangeness of the situation, despite the impossible resemblance, he felt genuine sympathy for this woman. Emma had already curled up next to Isel on the couch, completely comfortable with this stranger. Leo remained wary, watching from his spot on the floor. Do you have any pictures? Emma asked. Of your family? Isel reached into her coat pocket and pulled out an old, worn photograph. She stared at it for a long moment before handing it to Emma. Emma gasped. Dad, look! Henry took the photo. His hands started shaking. The blood drained from his face. The photograph showed a young girl, maybe 4 or 5 years old, standing between two adults. The woman in the photo was unmistakable. It was his wife, his late wife, Maria, but that meant. Where did you get this? Henry's voice came out as barely a whisper. Isel looked confused. That's my mother and my father. This was taken right before. Before I was taken. Taken? Leo stood up now, alert. What do you mean taken? Isel's eyes filled with tears. I was kidnapped when I was 5 years old from a park in Queens. My parents searched for years, but they never found me. I grew up in foster care, always wondering about them. This photograph is the only thing I have left. Henry couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. What? What was your mother's name? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Maria, Isel said softly. Maria Thompson. She married someone, I think, after I was taken. I found some old records, but I could never track her down. And then last year I found out she had. Isel's voice broke. She had passed. Away 3 years ago, cancer. The mug fell from Henry's hand, hot chocolate spilling across the carpet. Emma yelped. Leo jumped back, but Henry didn't notice any of it. Oh my God, he breathed. Oh my God. Dad, Leo's voice was scared now. Dad, what's wrong? Henry looked at Isel, really looked at her, the shape of her nose, the curve of her smile, the small birthmark on her left cheek. Maria had a daughter, Henry said slowly. Before we met, she told me about her, a daughter who was taken from her when she was 5 years old. She searched for years. She never stopped searching. Even when the police gave up, even when everyone told her to move on, she never stopped. Isel's face went pale. What are you saying? Maria was my wife, Henry's voice cracked. She was Leo and Emma's mother. She died 3 years ago, but until her last breath, she was looking for you. She never gave up hope. The silence that followed was deafening. Emma started crying. Leo stood frozen, his mouth hanging open, and Isel's whole body began to shake. That means, she couldn't finish the sentence. You're their sister, Henry said. Their half-sister, Emma and Leo's sister. The weight of those words hung in the air like snow suspended in time. Emma was the first to move. She wrapped her small arms around Isel and sobbed into her coat. You're our sister. We have a sister. Leo approached slowly, cautiously, as if Isel might disappear if he moved too fast. Is this real? He asked his father. This is really real? Henry nodded, tears streaming down his face. Your mother's first daughter, the one she told you bedtime stories about, the one she called her angel. That's Isel. Isel couldn't hold it together anymore. Years of pain, of wondering, of searching, all came pouring out. She held Emma tight and reached out for Leo, pulling him into the embrace. I have siblings, she whispered. I have a family. Henry stood up and walked to the small closet in the hallway. His hands were still shaking as he pulled out an old shoebox from the top shelf. Inside were Maria's most precious belongings, things he couldn't bear to throw away. He found what he was looking for, a letter. Maria had written it 2 years before she died, when the cancer had first been diagnosed. She had made Henry promise to keep it safe, just in case. Maria wrote this, Henry said, handing the envelope to Isel. She wrote it. For you, she always believed you'd come back. Isel's hands trembled as she opened the letter. Her eyes scanned the words, and fresh tears fell with each line. My darling girl, my first baby, my stolen angel. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. But please know that not a single day passed when I didn't think of you. Not a single night when I didn't pray for you. I searched until I couldn't search anymore. I loved you until my last breath. And beyond that, always beyond that, you have. Siblings now, Leo and Emma, they don't know you yet, but I've told them about you. I've told them about their brave, beautiful sister who was taken too soon. Please find them. Please be a family. That's all I ever wanted. All I ever dreamed of. You were never forgotten. You were never unloved. You were always, always in my heart. Forever your mother, Maria. The apartment was silent except for the sound of crying. 4 people bound by loss, by love, by an impossible Christmas miracle. She never stopped looking, Henry said quietly. Even in her final days, she was making phone calls, checking databases, following leads. She made me promise to keep looking after she was gone. But he choked up. I didn't know where to start. I failed her. No, Isel said firmly, looking up from the letter. No, you didn't fail. You raised her children. You kept this family together. You loved them. That's what she would have wanted. Emma wiped her eyes. Are you going to stay for Christmas forever? Isel laughed through her tears. I don't know. This is all so overwhelming. Please stay, Leo said suddenly. It was the first time he'd really spoken since the revelation. At least for tonight. At least for Christmas. Henry nodded. We have a couch. It's not much, but your family, you're always welcome here. Isel looked around at the small apartment, the worn furniture, the modest Christmas decorations, the hot chocolate stains on the carpet, and she smiled, a real, genuine smile. I'd like that, she said. I'd really like that. Henry woke up on Christmas morning to the sound of laughter, real laughter, the kind he hadn't heard in his house since Maria died. He walked into the living room and found Emma showing Isel her doll collection. Leo was explaining his favorite video games. Isel sat on the floor with them, completely engaged, asking questions, laughing at their jokes. She fit. Somehow, impossibly, she fit right into their broken. Little family, morning, Henry said. Isel looked up. I hope you don't mind. They woke me up at 6 a.m. That sounds about right, Henry smiled. Coffee, please. They sat at the small kitchen table while the kids played in the living room. Steam rose from their mugs. Outside, fresh snow was falling. I did some research last night, Isel said quietly. Found old newspaper articles about my kidnapping. Apparently it was a woman who took me. Someone with mental health issues who had lost her own child. She raised me as her own for 2 years before she was arrested for something else. That's when I went into foster care. Maria kept every article, Henry said. Every news report, every police update. She had files and files of information. Can I see them? Of course, they're yours. Everything of Maria's that relates to you, it's all yours. Isel's eyes filled with tears again. I spent so many years angry at my mother, for not finding me, for abandoning me, and now I find out she never stopped, she never gave up. She loved you more than anything, Henry said. She told me once that losing you was like losing half her soul. But she kept going because she had hope that one day somehow you'd find your way back. And I did, Isel whispered. On Christmas Eve, I found my way home. Emma ran into the kitchen. Isel, come open presents with us. I don't have any presents, Isel said sadly. Yes, you do. Emma grabbed her hand. Santa brought them, come see. Henry followed them into the living room. Under the tree were the modest gifts he'd bought for Leo and Emma. But there was also a small wrapped box he didn't recognize. What's this? He asked. Leo shrugged. It was here when we woke up. It says to Isel from your family. Isel picked up the box with trembling hands. She carefully unwrapped it. Inside was a silver locket. When she opened it, she gasped. On one side was a picture of Maria, young and smiling. On the other side was space for a new photo. How did this? Henry started, then stopped. At the bottom of the box was a small note in Maria's handwriting. He recognized it immediately. For my daughter when she comes home. She bought this before she died, Henry said, his voice thick with emotion. She told me she had one more Christmas present to buy, but she never told me what it was. I never found it. I thought maybe she never got the chance. She knew, Isel whispered. Somehow she knew I'd come back. Emma climbed into Isel's lap. We can take a new picture, all of us together, that can go in the other side. And that's exactly what they did. That Christmas morning in a small Brooklyn apartment, a broken family became whole again. They took dozens of pictures. They laughed and cried and told stories about Maria. They made Christmas cookies from a box mix and watched Christmas movies and built a snowman in the tiny courtyard. It wasn't a perfect Christmas. The apartment was still small, money was still tight. Maria was still gone, but somehow, impossibly, it was the best Christmas any of them had ever had. 6 months later, Isel officially moved into the apartment building. Her place was just 2 floors up. She saw Leo and Emma every day. She helped Henry with parenting duties. She became part of the family in every way that mattered. They put Maria's ashes in a beautiful urn and visited her grave together. Isel placed flowers and told her mother everything. About her life, about finding her siblings, about finally coming home. And sometimes, on quiet evenings, when Emma was asleep and Leo was doing homework and Isel was sharing coffee with Henry, they would talk about how impossible it all was. How Isel had moved to their exact neighborhood. How Emma had gotten lost on that exact night. How she had knocked on their exact door. "Do you believe in miracles?" Isel asked once. Henry looked at his 3 children, the family Maria had dreamed of finally together. "Yeah," he said softly. "Yeah, I do." Because sometimes, even in the darkest times, even when all hope seems lost, miracles do happen. Sometimes stolen daughters find their way home. Sometimes broken families heal. Sometimes love really does conquer all. And sometimes, just sometimes, Christmas brings exactly what you need, even if you didn't know you were missing it. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to believe in miracles today. Because sometimes the most impossible stories turn out to be true. Merry Christmas, and may your family always find its way home.